Yes, so welcome to today's session, which is the first in a series of webinars that we're doing as part of the Despite Extractivism online exhibition. So as well as being an art exhibition, we really want this to be a sort of ongoing moment of conversation and of collective learning. And we've decided to organise 3 sort of interrelated events focusing on vaguely similar questions, connected questions across different scales. So from the body to the community to an idea of worlding, and we'll be exploring these over 3 weeks. So today we're thinking about embodiment, and we're doing this through these ideas of performance, and there'll be opportunities for reflections and discussions as well. So we do invite you to be quite present in this session today and enjoy the performances and engage with them and get something out of them. So to just give you a quick overview of what we'll be up to today, we're joined by the amazing Arabel Lebrusan and Luce Choules, who are contributing artists to the Despite Extractivism exhibition. So Arabel will be inviting us to participate in her performance called Toxic Waves 2, which is harvesting empathy and coping with ecological grief through drawing. Toxic Waves 2 is an online participatory drawing performance where participants are invited to draw to the beat of a metronome, the shape of a wave with a repetitive line. And now is your chance, if you haven't already, to find a large piece of paper and something like pencils or charcoal, something ideally thick that you could draw with, and if you can, fix it to a wall. All will be revealed later. Luce will be sharing with us something called Remembering and Forgetting the Air, building traces from fragments in their collaborative work, Megalithic, which is with Choules and Reusner. Choules will be performing a poetic script to voice the space of air, a visible substance circulating in our bodies and carried in our breath. So as well as these performances today, do check out the online exhibition where you can find out a little bit more about these works and engage with the other works of the exhibition as well. Just a quick introduction to the exhibition. So Despite Extractivism is something that we've co-curated as the Extracting Us Collective. And we are basically academics informed by feminist political ecology. We're part of a network called WeGo, which is bringing together ideas on this subject. Also part of the Centre for Social, Environmental and Cultural Politics at the University of Brighton, supported by ONCA, which is an organisation for arts and activism in Brighton, and the various other sort of activist organisations and community groups that we're working with. And so the theme of the exhibition, Despite Extractivism, is to explore what exists, persists, and resists despite the presence of extractivism. The other ways of thinking and being in the world which counter the logics of extractivism, such as through relations of care and connectedness. So another route that was sort of also opened up to us when we started with this idea was not only about how these expressions are practiced by those in the extractive zone and sort of on the front line of the injustices of the extractive industry, also how art and creativity can be a way of expressing these caring relations. So in the next hour or so, we'll explore how particular kinds of creative practices, which are embodied sensory and emotional experiences, might evoke new sensibilities to distant extractive realities. So some questions that we might think about are, how might the performances shared today by Arabel and Luce motivate us to think or act differently in relation to extractivism? What happens when you focus attention on this domain or scale of the body in relation to extractivism? What kinds of ideas or solidarities might be produced through paying attention to the body and embodied emotions? What are the challenges, opportunities of art, visual art, of performance, especially when relating to places and experiences that are geographically distant? And just to expand a little bit on that idea of embodiment and maybe some thoughts that will carry with us today. So following Black and colonial feminist thinkers, we know the personal is a realm of the political, and the body is a site through which politics is enacted. Taking seriously the embodied, the emotional, and those things which are considered invisible is a way of challenging dominant ways of knowing, So those are ways of sort of favouring rationality over the emotion, and these tacit ways of knowing. The body is where we know the world, where the world acts upon us, and where we act in the world. How is extractivism enacted upon bodies, such as through contamination, disaster, stress, experiences of loss? How are these experiences unevenly experienced? Whose bodies are devalued? Whose identities are the basis of marginalization and dispossession? How do embodied experiences invoke sensibilities and reactions to extractivism? How do they inform claims or collective demands? How are the ways that we experience today's performances informed by our situated bodies and identities, our race, class, gender, age, abilities, health, experiences, our preoccupations? In what ways are our individual experiences also perhaps shared experiences, or perhaps not? So that was my little spiel, just while people are still arriving and to feel like we have all arrived together in one place. We're just going to have a few little minutes in some breakout rooms, which I hope is okay with you. So we're just going to take 5 minutes to just introduce yourselves, say hello to a few people, to introduce where you are, what brought you here today. And if this is a relevant question to you, then how would you translate embodiment, or perhaps there's a similar word in your own language or another language that you're familiar with? So I'm going to send you off into your rooms for just 5 minutes now. Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you either met some familiar friends or some new ones. It's interesting to see who was put where there. Great. So now, without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Arabel, who's going to invite us to take part in her participatory performance. So Arabel Lebrusan is currently a research fellow at the Centre for Spatial, Environmental and Cultural Politics at the University of Brighton. Arabel is a Spanish-born artist working in sculpture, drawing, jewellery and site-specific interventions, focusing on materials and material culture, such as metal from knives confiscated by police, or mercury used in small-scale gold mining. Her work investigates wider issues of power relationships, exploitation and inequality, and her artworks function as social commentary. Arabel is currently exploring notions of extractivism, ecofeminism, and ecological grief. Thanks, Arabel.
Hi, thanks, Alice. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all ready for some activating and some drawing. I would like to just start the session just reading out loud what happened, something that happened. It's gonna be about 3 years ago exactly, the 25th of January 2019. And then I'm gonna go and show you the image of what happened. And then we're just gonna go and do some drawing. For that, I will put a metronome on, and then as soon as you start hearing the beats, please, join us along. I'll be drawing here on the back. Please, you draw whatever you have, and then at the end we'll be sharing those drawings. Hopefully we can see each other, and hopefully you can also send us a picture of those, because it will be brilliant to put them on the website as well. So no further ado, I'll go on with it. On the 25th of January 2019, the Correggio de Feijão mine in the city of Brumadinho, also in Minas Gerais state, Brazil, played host to a disaster of devastating proportions. When a tailings dam belonging to Vale, the world's largest iron ore producer, collapsed, releasing approximately 12 million cubic liters of toxic mud flow, which advanced downstream, killing 272 people in the process. Prosecutors subsequently described a relationship of pressure, collusion, rewards, and conflict of interest between Vale and the German company TÜV SÜD, alleging that Vale hid information about the dam's instability to avoid harming the company's reputation, and TÜV SÜD issued reports confirming that it was safe. There are still ongoing court cases against all players.
Exato momento do rompimento da barragem 1 do complexo da Mina do Feijão em Brumadinho, na região metropolitana de Belo Horizonte. Nós acompanhamos agora juntos essa imagem. Agora a barragem estoura. Um estouro violento, uma avalanche de lama que vai arrastando tudo pela frente, e parece que há estouros sucessivos. Os números oficiais são
Hello. Back. We're done. 272 waves, almost 10 minutes. How did that feel?
Thanks, Arabel. Let's all take a minute to just answer that question silently, shall we, and come back together. How did that feel for everyone? Would anyone like to share their reflections?
I just want to say, so this is the second time I've run this this performance in a different space. I'm alone, which last time I was together with other individuals in the same room doing it together. It felt lonely. I felt alone with these 272 souls. Does anyone want to share their thoughts with us? You can write it down as well if you don't feel like speaking.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Yeah, I actually, I felt more a sense of affinity with the earth and what suddenly happened. There was a space and a place that was very serene, very still, very beautiful. There's fluidity about it. And then the sudden change, that's where I felt it, a sense of affinity with that and that change, how it felt. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Senia.
Arabel, someone's raising their hand.
Yeah.
Hopkins?
Yes, I really felt when the sound, when you were doing the performance, it really felt vibrational inside me, and because we're trying to block a mining application in our area, it also had this. It just felt really ominous and scary, you know, that it could happen right next to us, you know, as well. So very powerful, just the sound and yeah, the mark making.
Thank you so much. We have a comment I have a few comments here that maybe I felt trapped. Muriel, do you want to expand on that?
I'm not sure I can, but I think this came from various directions. The sense of time running away from the metronome, and of course the images and the earth coming over me and all these landscapes and people, but maybe also trapped in a loop of things starting over and over again. So I think these are maybe the three things I can think of.
Thanks for that. I have here another comment. I am in a shared PhD workspace. I felt awkward, constrained, uncomfortable, like I was having to perform, but also enjoying sensation of it. Bethan, you want to expand on that? If you can, if you're in a shared space, you might not. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Hi, yeah, no, yeah, I just felt a bit of a disconnect, I guess, from feeling not really sure what I was doing and having to, I mean, if you can see, that's what I did there. I just put some paper in the on there, and there's two other people working in here, and they had no idea what I was doing. So one person came up and actually was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing that," and just pointed at the screen. But I think the one thing, the rhythm of it was really interesting. I was, yeah, the sound of your pencil, and then the metronome kind of sustained me, I guess. So it felt like I'm still connected to something. I'm still connected to something. It was giving me permission to do it. But I felt like, especially towards the end, like I was running out of steam. So yeah, so those are some of the things I felt. But that idea of embodiment, it was just interesting thinking about the ideal of doing something like this is really feeling like you're in the flow or something and connected with others, and actually the actual practicalities of where we're doing things and being in shared places and the constraints around us really, for me, was much more prominent.
Thanks for that. I was really trying to be aware of, I realized my drawing was so loud and I was really conscious. I had practiced before, but I didn't think it was going to be that much. So I was really conscious of letting the metronome, because for me as well, like this time it felt really long, and the noise, it was really loud. So yeah, I guess depending what you are, or with who you are, or with who you're not, will definitely make a difference, impact in the body and the relationship to the performance as well. There's quite a few comments now in the chat. Do you guys just want to share them instead of me reading them out loud? And please take the initiative and just read them yourselves and share with us. It's always great to have different point of views.
We also have a hand up from Dewey.
Say that again, Alice.
Sorry, there's also a hand up from Dewey if they want to.
Oh yeah, Dewey. Do you wanna go?
Yeah, I just want to share this my drawing. I hope it's see. Yes, actually at the first time, the first circle, I didn't feel anything, but more silker, more deeper. I draw the metronome. Actually, I feel very sad and very angry. So it's deep, like a speechless. I'm surprising that I feel like that, because I feel it's just a simple drawing, but actually I feel very focused and deeper about, and feel about what happened. It's very far away, so it sad and very angry. Thank you.
I mean, I can share the anger. I share the anger, and I I think there is a space, there is certain grieving that happens, and that anger, it happens together on all of us. I think doing something like this together is that shared space where we can grieve. And anger is one of those stages of grief, as they say. Hopefully by the time maybe you finish, you've gone through all these different emotions, you know. At the beginning, also when you start drawing, sometimes if you don't usually draw on your day-to-day life, it's like, what am I doing? Is this correct what I'm doing? Am I supposed to be doing this? Is allowing ourselves to just go into a creative experience, which is just mark making. And then when you've passed that usually comes the overwhelming of emotions. Obviously in each individual is different. And I think all those journeys are very interesting on what we're doing. For me as an artist, for an artistic experience, but also a campaigner and wanting you to engage with something that happens really far away from us. So hopefully there's a space for all those things, and also the grieving part, which when I started this performance, started doing them, I didn't know that that was going to be the space for grieving, and I realized that there is. So yeah, I'm very interested to hear from you guys how that anger evolved.
I can just say that I was thinking a lot about the materials I was using, maybe specifically because I was using a Sharpie, so it smelled terrible, and I could still smell like kind of toxic fumes from it. That was just making me think about kind of the different material aspects of the video and kind of our own implication in extraction and the materials that we use, and kind of the toxic outcomes from that, be that chemical or social or other ways that we're kind of all connected to the land and what we do to it.
I can maybe add a little bit on that if you find it interesting. It's about the composition of the tailings. They're fine particulate material, 30% sand and 69% silt clay, composed mainly of iron, aluminium, manganese, and titanium, among other elements. Trace of toxic metals are also present, such as uranium, cadmium, lead, tin, and mercury, and rare earth metals, such as gallium. And I'll leave that there. Does anyone, Alice, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna move on to Luce in case unless anyone else wanted to share. We will have another opportunity for sort of reflecting on both the performances later on, but if anyone's desperate to say anything, please do. No, okay, then let me introduce Luce. So today we're joined by Luce Choules, but in the Despite Extractivism exhibition, they're presenting a piece together with Reusner, so they're in the collaboration Choules and Reusner, and they started their regolithic collaboration during the autumn of 2021. They work in the visual, sonic, and conceptual arts, live performance, and music production. Their fieldwork takes place in natural, managed, extractive, and post-industrial landscapes, and responds with sculptural, performative, and digital environments. Over to you, Luce.
Thanks very much, Alice, and hello everybody, and welcome to the Despite Extractivism webinar. Thank you, Arabel, for your participatory performance. It was really cathartic, actually. I'd like to screen share. I'm going to stop my video and screen share. So if you want to go to speaker view now instead of gallery, I'm going to find so can you see this in your great. I am the air, invisible, inhabiting every space, supporting life. My body is not my own. I belong to all things moving, holding vapor. Clouds show their moisture in forms shaped by atmospherics, and hanging mist combs the forest, dissipates above the tree line, below, steam rising from snowmelt, holds warmth, rises with the eagle, scanning the ground, coasting on thermals, and cool breeze animates the trees, taking with it loose leaves, carries blossom scent and pollen far over fields to land in senses alive to experience, and pine resin from the mountain released underfoot from 1,000 needles, a sticky fragrance clings, residue of altitude, tang, and desert, thick with heat, makes sand and rock move and blur with fluid intensity. Over the plains, a mass of seeds let go, find spaces. We breathe and are breathed through, bodies as permeable objects. Exhaling is expression, where shaped breath voices collective gravity and resists carelessness, while viruses linger, hover on surfaces, carried on clothing, ready to be taken in, filtered through respiratory systems and structures too complex to know, volcanic ash, blocking sun and radar, grounds flights and economies, a conflict of industrial interests, while birds navigate migration, and particulate matter accumulated, transformed with every inhale, fossil fuels, a smog of complacency, soot apparent in ice forms, melting, carbon waiting, while trees breathe carbon dioxide for future contamination of oxygen diminished. This breathing in of carcinogens into tissue, commonplace in cities, place of visible particles, of car fumes, noxious gases, and waste, where life shortened, expected, and plastics in oceans find currents above waves, where spray releases microsubstances carried in salt, rained over ranges. The rare air of Everest shows detritus of industry, and chemicals eddy from aircraft trails in unpredictable jet streams. Chaos theory, alive, not well, in governance and politics, breaching all borders, contaminated dust, held in breath and bodies.
Thanks, Luce. Let's take another minute now just to reflect on that individually. Maybe put some paper nearby, you can note down some of the images that have stayed with you or came to mind. What else did it make you think of? Where did that take you? How did it make you feel? Let's just have a minute by ourselves to reflect on that. Does anyone want to share what that brought to mind for them? Or Luce, if you have a different kind of question that you'd like to invite people to respond to, that's also cool.
No, I think that's the question, actually, how it makes people feel, you know, this substance that we think is invisible, you know, that carries so much and that we breathe in.
Maybe I can try. Yeah, from seeing and listening to what Luce said, it kind of make me feel aware of my complicity in this world's mess and injustice, in spectacular and everyday practices. But then it also makes me feel that small things, invisible things that I do, that people do, caring for, being kind for others in smallest possible way, might make little difference that might leads to momentum and maybe bigger difference. So I'm kind of feeling that, I don't know that it's something that you expect, Luce, but I'm kind of feel like even invisible things, small things, it can carry hope.
That's really lovely. I mean, I don't expect anything. It's how each person reacts. You know, you react in your own knowledges and realities, and it's, you know, it's your experience and your voice. You know, your voice takes over at that point.
Can I continue what Dian said? I never thinking about the air. I mean, like, you know, in the specific time, and I feel that there is no border about air, but in a way, it's really bring us the connection. We breathe the same air, but I also think about climate change, which is talk about the air, the atmosphere, invisible connection, and the crisis. That's my feeling. Thanks, Luce.
That's really lovely. You know, it's the one thing that, I mean, we talk about airspace, and, you know, certain spaces are kind of carved out, you know, and called territories, but actually, you know, the sands from the Sahara crossed over Europe and blocked the sun in the UK. You know, it's these materials travel, you know, without passports and other things, and it's the air that can take them. You know, so it's a deeply poetic space. And but it opens up a sort of material or a physicality to the materials that cross in the air.
What I found really interesting is the residue of your voice, and in relation to air, which is something that is, I would imagine, little. My perception is little and fragmented. And your tone and the rhythm of your words was even more, I guess I was listening less to what it meant to the tempo and the rhythm of it. So I got it not through the words. Sometimes I would listen one word or the other, but many of them were lost in the rhythm and in the sense of the thing. So I understood not so much because of what he said, but because of how it felt. And I think that's what, for me, the embodiment part was like, oh, I I get it. I get it differently, not the rational, not the thinking, not the meaning of those words, but the whole combination of everything.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, it's a challenge of a voice to carry all that, and I'm really pleased that you picked up on it. I mean, I've given performances to different audiences, and that speak a host of different languages, and it's quite nice that people pick up on the breathing or the tone or something emotive rather than something that's necessarily precise in a language. There's a language that we all share, which is an emotional one, and I think it's really lovely that you picked up on that, actually.
Ilona, you want to share?
Yeah, I wanted to I put something in the chat which connects quite a lot to what Arabel just said, and there was a real link for me. Having drawn the waves and experienced the metronome helped me also connect to your performance through the rhythm, and the it was quite kind of monotonous in a way, but very textured. I think is also what Arabel was referring to, like a lot of material and texture in the voice. And so, yeah, and that made me feel the rhythm of the performance. And for me, I think similar, like words, because of the ways you were playing with words as well, certain words coming back and having different meanings. And so, yeah, that was really kind of almost like a cyclicalness in the writing and the performance was really what struck me, and maybe less limiting in a way than the physical experience of drawing the wave. So yeah, that was interesting of how that monotonousness or that rhythm can lead to different kinds of feeling, also by the different embodiments, by listening rather than drawing, or yeah, how does that make us feel differently when we also express or experience the performance differently. Thank you, Luce.
Ilona, what I found very interesting what you said is that I'm talking about earth and Luce is talking about air. So the expansion of her with the voice, and mine was kind of more pressed because of the drawing. And I somehow now is like, oh my God, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It's funny as well, because although it's about the air, it's actually the material in the air that I'm the most interested in. Actually, it goes back to a brief conversation we had, Arabel, when you were talking about all the charcoal in the air from your performance last year. And these things are carried and then they settle somewhere. And sometimes you can think of them as very sort of light. It's all about weight. Something's light and something's heavy. Something is thrown up and something falls down. It's actually all about material. The actions of the drawing, which I did. It's actually it's the whole performance. The performances that we're breathing, and that's actually one of the things that really connects us. I love Karis's comment in the chat. Where's Karis? Would you like to say something, Karis?
I kind of articulated most of it in the comment, but yeah, thank you both to Arabel and Luce for what we've experienced thus far. It's been really powerful, and just really enjoying being in this session with all of you and hearing all your thoughts. But yeah, I think a lot of what you were communicating in that piece did remind me of this concept that I came across last year in Daisy Hildyard's book, The Second Body, and just this idea that we all have this one kind of physical body, the body we're familiar with, that we use to navigate the space immediately around us, but we're also all connected to one another and to all living things via a second body. And it's that, if we have that concept in mind, it's helpful for thinking about the climate crisis and the way that everything that we do has a connection to and an impact on the world at large. The air that we're breathing is the same air, or will be the same, or has been the same air that someone is breathing in another part of the world, or another living creature is interacting with. And just knowing that we're not isolated, impermeable creatures, that we are these entities that are kind of ebb and flow with all matter. It's just really making me think about that again.
Yes, as you say, it's it's porous. We're porous, and most of the matter actually is porous, whether in meaning as well as physically. Yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you for sharing the reference as well.
Can I just, because what you just said, Carrie, is the question that I had the last week. Like in my work or in my life, I'm quite busy with me, the close me, my female experience in the world, and my ancestors and my grandmothers, and the alchemy of the closeness, the things close to me. And then suddenly I'm relating to the world that has the agency. And I don't know what to do with those two things. Even when I explain about my practice, I'm busy with those two levels. And I was asking around how these two relate, and you just explained it. And it's like, okay, I need to look into this, because it's how I feel. I feel connected to my physicality, and I feel connected to everything else. And that's why in the presentation, when we talked about, the other, it's not the other, and nature is the other. No, we are that. There's no other. It's us as one. There's so much here. Thank you.
Also, is there somebody with their hand up? I can't see in the... I thought I saw a hand go up in the... But maybe not.
That is the Hawkins, B. Hawkins.
Ah, yes.
Hi. I had it up and then I took it down again because I was listening to what everybody was talking about. But what came across when you spoke was it was like evoked, and because there's the visuals as well, it evoked all the senses really. It was, I could really taste what you were saying. I could see it, I could smell it. And it was like really it was nearly a call to action or something, it was, and that part where the trees are breathing reminded me of the rights of nature campaigns that are happening. It's a movement happening all over the world at the moment, and it kind of feeds into the fact that we are part of nature, and what Carrie's just previously said about the second body, our first body and second body. So it's something that I'm involved in here, the rights of nature, but it's a worldwide movement, and I think it's growing, and we're getting motions for rights of nature passed in Ireland at the moment in all the different councils. It's happening, and it's it's just happening really fast, and that's maybe something positive that we can all get involved in, thank you so much for the work. It's very powerful to listen to it and to look at the visual images as well.
Amazing, thank you so much. We've got Moana as well with her hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you, both of you. I'm also still thinking about, just briefly, the conversation at the start. I was in the breakout room with the two artists and about the, not necessarily problem, but just the, like, how to get things across, especially about embodiment through video space. And I was just picking up on some of the language that has been used about how things land. I think, Luce, that was something that you said about, like, in the air, things land. And I think there's a very real way in which people's voices land in the bodies of people listening on calls like this. So just, it makes me think about just something I've heard circulated quite often during the pandemic about how in Chinese medicine, grief is held in the lungs. And how, like, everything that circulates through the lungs that comes across in the air, even, you know, you're speaking, but I'm not sharing the same, I'm not directly sharing the same air, but something from your material reality is landing in my material reality. So yeah, they're just very rich feeling space that both of you have created, and I'll be thinking about it for a long time.
Amazing, thank you so much. Well, thank you everybody who's commented and you know, and taken part and listened, and I think now we'll go to a more general conversation, like open it up maybe with the themes of Despite Extractivism as well. So over to you, Alice.
Thank you. Yeah, I've just popped in the chat there some of the sort of questions that we sort of had in mind before this session even existed. So actually what I thought that we might do is take these questions with us now to breakout rooms again, if that's all right with everyone. I'll share them with you again. So what happens when you focus attention on the domain or scale of the body or embodiment and emotion in relation to extractivism? What kind of ideas or solidarities might be produced through paying attention to the bodied and embodied emotions? What are the challenges or opportunities of art, of virtual art, of performance, especially when relating to places or experiences that are geographically distant? So I'll just listen to breakout rooms for 10 minutes, I think. And yeah, you don't have to answer these exact questions if other things come to mind, of course. I'll just reshuffle some of these so they're a little bit more even. Sorry about this. Okay, let's try that.
Hello, Alice. I'm sorry, I just get back from the toilet.
Oh, okay. Do you want to join a breakout room? We're just discussing some of those questions that we had at the end there. Oh, sorry, that we started with at the beginning.
Okay.
Do you see Do you see an option to do that?
But there is option to join with the breakout room now.
Breakout,
I think it's December.
yeah. Do you see it?
But I think there is a option. I think it's December. I just let choose.
Oh, how to do that? It doesn't say you can join room 8. It doesn't have that option. Let me try.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Sean. Bye.
It happens all the time.
Oh, I hope we had some good discussions. Already seeing some interesting references in the chat there. Excellent. Does anyone want to share what they sort of ended up talking about? Go on, Mai. You can't just laugh at us.
Well, with me personally, I talk about the relation with my body in the context of consumption, in a way, how my consumption, my bodies have connection with others' body, second body, and whatever. We discuss about that still, and thinking about the possible solidarity that we can do in that connections. Yeah. Maureen, maybe you can, because we don't have time to share actually in the group, sorry.
No, I don't want to take too much. Discussion around the porosity of the body that Catherine was bringing up in our group discussion, and how habitat and body are inseparable if you zoom in on the body and then the body disappears. I think, Catherine, you put it really nicely in our group discussion. And I was hearing Siti talk about feeling guilty or culpable about consumption of certain things. And then I thought that's a different discussion. And actually, I realized that it maybe isn't, because you're consuming through your body, right? You're consuming through your senses, drinking, eating, touching, iPhones, whatever. So there are some dots here I'm thinking about. And but I think for me, this zooming on the senses is really, as somebody said it before, I think it was Bethan, calling to action. It's really motivating to do stuff, basically. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks for sharing that. And that was really one of our questions about how can these sort of performances or art in general be motivating in that way for people to feel a new reason or maybe way of being connected to extractive situations and to do something. Or maybe it's not so much about extractivism, but about sort of those opposite things like nature and its connectedness, or these sort of connections between people in these sort of communities. Thanks for sharing that. Did anyone else want to bring anything from their group discussion?
I was in a session with Oana, and we were talking about all these sort of connections that we can make, and actually we can make them going forward. And we've exchanged emails in our breakout room, and hopefully we'll keep this conversation going. You know, we talked about care and well-being and first body, second body, touched a tiny bit on solidarity, but I think the solidarity is about keeping the conversation going more than anything.
Is this something that maybe we should do, like write our emails on the chat, and anyone can, I'm going to do mine, and anyone can just reach out personally if needed.
I'm also going to put the Despite Extractivism email there. If you want to send us, well, anything really, we're happy to receive it. But we're thinking if you could send us a picture of your toxic waves from today, we can make a post of all of our pictures. And if you did want to share just doesn't have to be a lot, some quick words of reflection, we can post those as well. Or if you want to write something long, we can also make space for that. Arabel?
I have a wish. Just if we can put it all on the screen, our drawings, and then I take a screenshot. Please, please, please. It would be so lovely.
Sure, let's do that now. Sure.
Screenshot ready. Screenshot ready. Come on, come on. Oh, is that lovely? Oh, nice. One more, two more. There we go. 1, 2, 3. And do another one just in case. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Who else was smiling even though we were hidden? Is it just me? Oana, did you want to say something? You got your hand up.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to share what I had shared in our group, is that I just find myself sort of saying this more and more often, is that one form of solidarity, say with people who are doing a lot of healing work or care work, is that that our bodies are really our first environment, our most intimate environment, and that I in my different circles, you know, I've talked to people who feel guilty that they're not doing more, or people who are doing a lot from a collective healing perspective, but maybe haven't really held themselves in their own healing work. But so that there's an opportunity for solidarity just in that recognition that our bodies are really our first and most intimate environments, and that there's just continuity from there.
Thanks so much for sharing. I'm aware of the time. Did anyone else want to share anything urgently, or perhaps pop it in the chat? Otherwise, I was going to pass over to Deanne to say a few words about the second event in this series, which will be happening same time next week.
Thanks, Alice. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks so much Arabel and Luce for very inspiring works. I want to invite you all to our next webinar, our next event in exactly 1 week from now, and the same timing, Thursday. And it's titled Community. It's just like what Alice said before, we work from bodies and then going to scale of communities, and then the last event will be on WorldLink. And what is communities? Communities of place are often at the center of stories about impacts and resistance to extractivism. When we ask what persists despite extractivism, the question also invites us to think about what we mean by community in our experience, in our stories. In this event, we invite contributors to share their stories about what community means in their work and how they reflect and how they engage with the concept of community. Up to now, we will be joined by Vicenza. She is an Irish researcher at the National University of Ireland, Galway, and her work explore resistance to extractivism in the Sperrins Mountains against big gold mining using participatory visual methodologies. And we'll also be joined by JKPP. It's an advocacy NGO on focusing on working with the community on participatory mapping. And also with the JKPP will share their work working with the community of an island in Indonesia that been faced with extractivist tourism. And then to be joined by Siti Maimunah that will share her work in Kalimantan with community and against mining. That's from me. Hope to see some of you next week. Thank you, Alice.
Thanks, Deanne. And just to say, everyone who will be joining us that Deanne mentioned next week are also contributing artists to the exhibition. So if you haven't already, do have a look at the online exhibition, and yeah, it'd be interesting to sort of revisit the pieces, I think, with the different questions and thoughts that emerge through each of these sessions, and look at them differently this time next week, I expect. All right, I'm aware of the time. I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you so much to Arabel and Luce for your amazing performances, and to everyone who's still here and being such engaged audience isn't really the right word, is it? Like participants and discussants and thinkers and doers, and look forward to seeing you all again this time next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.